Oh, hi folks, hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed the video from last night. We appreciate if you put comments underneath last night's video, by the way, just to prove that they're being accepted. Um, it's always helpful. Otherwise, I just basically look forward to the comments, and they're a good indicator as to if I'm on track. I know 3 people liked it. 3, yes, as many as that. But I don't know. I mean, it's just disappointing that YouTube frig around with the numbers, if indeed they do. Um, but I've always maintained that if just one of my videos helps just one person, it's my job done, to be honest. That one person will benefit with a bit of luck, and good. I've done something towards my karma. Some of you will know, it's on a personal basis, that my mother is just about to meet her maker, and she's in a comatose state, which is fortunate for her in many ways because she has advanced Alzheimer's, dementia, and she's just slipping down the mortal coil, as we all have to do. Upsetting that it is. But my brother and I were phoning her relatives today, and I just thought I'd tell you a brief overview of that because it just demonstrates really how pitiful some human beings can be. And you possibly have had this in your own experiences, but it's good to share. We sat down, my brother and I, who's coordinating making, quite frankly, my mother's funeral arrangements. And there are 4 brothers left, and my father died some years back, so we thought we'd better phone up and get in contact with my mother's sisters. Now, bearing in mind my mother's 84, her sisters are equally as old and infirm, but they've still got the marbles, so she has a younger sister as well, and cousins and all this sort of stuff, and they're in Scotland, in St Andrews, and because they never seem to have left there. It's funny, isn't it? So the average people don't generally leave their local area more than 50 miles, 60 miles from where they were born. Some people. That's rather strange. They lack ambition, I think. Maybe. It could have been the Hadrian's Wall that stopped them coming south. You never know. It did its job. But I didn't get to see my mother's sisters and brothers too often. Thank goodness. They weren't really my bag because they were more Scottish than Scottish, you know. They're Scottish nationalists. So, and my mother fled the scene and was classed as a deserter when she married my father way back then, who was in the Royal Air Force in RAF Lucas in Scotland. That's where he met my mother. Anyway, what's that got to do with a slice of bread? Well, we get on the phone to these people, and it's absolutely staggering. These are people who have had zero, and I mean zero, contact with my mother. My mother I know tried some time ago when she had all her marbles, tried to start to communicate with her family, her brothers and sisters, and other relatives, cousins and things, by letter. Yes, she was an old-fashioned duck like that. Well, one replied out of them all, and that sister's since died, sadly. But it absolutely cheered my mother up to get a reply because there was so much between them, and they exchanged telephone numbers and get them on the phone. There was no stopping them, and something good happened over that letter. Old folk generally at that age don't do emails, you see, so you've got to write the letter. And we did go through pains trying to get the address of where her sister had moved to. Cut a long story short, anyway. The moment the Rellies found out that my mother is about to meet her maker, they were on the phone saying, well, what sort of arrangements for the funeral have been made, and what's happening? Is she getting cremated? Is she getting a burial? Is it going to be a big service? How many people are going? Is it going to be Church of Scotland? Because my mother was Scottish. And all this guff. Now, all this has been arranged by my brother and I. He's doing the grunt work, if you like, but it's been established that she'll be, buried in England. What a surprise! Will actually be cremated. That was her wish. And it'll be minimalistic, which means that she'll have a very minimalist. These are her wishes. She wanted a wicker basket coffin, not one of these big jobs, because, well, being Scottish, I suppose she was very generous for a Scotswoman. But she said, "Well, don't spend the fortune on getting rid of me." She's very stoic when she was talking about this, because she knew that eventually she would end up like my father, going up a chimney. And she was very jokey about this, but the reality is it's actually happening. It will be. But it's amazing now that the people that she hasn't had social intercourse with, or even her family, didn't want anything to do with her, it seemed. And it really hurt my mum. And it irritated the hell out of me. I said, well, it cost you a few stamps. I know you're heartbroken about the lack of interest in trying to catch up with you, yada, yada, yada. Never mind, you've got us. This is our family, mum. Me, my brothers, and our wives, etc. Forget it. If they wanted to be in touch, they knew where you lived. And but it's funny how the jocks now, I call them the jocks, up north, have started to make demands of how their sister, all of a sudden their oh so important sister, is going to be disposed of in a nice way. I say disposed of, just being flippant, but what are the arrangements? Is she being cremated? Is she being buried? Who's going to pay? Now, the common denominator in all this was, how much is it all going to cost us? Well, it's not going to cost you a thing. Don't worry. You can put your Scottish pounds back in your wallets where they gather dust, and tell them, I did actually try to manage to tell one the other day that we've gone decimals since he last got his money out, so his money's worthless. But it irritated the crap out of me now, because they're starting to make demands about the way things should be. They now know more about what my mother wanted than I do, or my brothers do. Now, who the hell do they think they are? They might be her brothers and sisters, but they should have no input. They haven't spoke to her for 35 years. One of them that did speak and have the courtesy to reply to a letter dropped dead. That was rather sad, But the rest of them, well, I don't know them from Adam. Who do they think they are now? All of a sudden, they think that their demands, and because it's her sister, well, it might be their sister, but it's my mother. Simples, okay? And if they were that concerned about her sister, why didn't they have any concern when she was alive? So, needless to say, that I got on the phone to them, and two in particular, and told them straight, listen, she's still warm, she's still alive, but I shall at least have the courtesy to tell you when she's gone. But if you want to come to the funeral, we'll let you know when it is. If you don't, quite frankly, we don't really care whether you attend or not, and I don't suppose my mother would either care whether you come to. It's a little bit hypocritical, don't you think? And I called him a hypocrite, because all of a sudden he's trying to take over the decisions and argue the toss what's going to happen with my mother. And this is a guy who's had nothing to do with her for 35 years. Well, but it's strange, isn't it, that people have the least amount to do and suddenly want to become the shining, I'm here, everything relaxed, I'll take over. And he can go and foxtrot Oscar, as far as I'm concerned. I told him that today. And he didn't like it at all. You don't like it up him, as Captain Mannering used to say. But it's often the case, isn't it, that, in times of crisis, people show their true colours. And, well, I know it's a trivial thing, but it's an important principle to me that look, you're either with us from the start or you're not. And if, they obviously weren't, but they seemed to think they had license because of this tie with my mother, because she was their brothers or sisters, to them, a sister to them, why they should have any say in it. And it's generated quite a friction, really, because on a couple of times, I've had a couple of phone calls today, and I know who it is, and they're not saying anything. If they do, they're not even apologising. They understand where I'm coming from. They know I'm highly stressed about the whole affair. And I just said, I just don't like your attitude. And to be honest, don't bother doing us a favour, because she probably wouldn't want you going anyway. Well, how do you know that? I said, I know my mother. Very well, thanks very much. I probably know your sister better than you do. And how very dare you even think that you're going to take over and make the funeral arrangements and decide, because are you paying? Are you going to start contributing to the funeral expenses? Oh, you're not? Okay, well, there you go. Well, why should you have a say then? Just because she happens to be your sister, the one that you haven't spoken to for 35 years? Well, my response is going to be, if you carry on talking. And you're certainly not welcome. So, out of courtesy, I've told you, and we'll let you know when the end game is finished, and that's it. And thanks for your efforts in replying to my mother. Not. You didn't get the letter, my ass. Yeah, all the others got their letter and you didn't. And the one who, the empty vessel makes the loudest noise, and boy did he make a loudest noise. How very dare he think he could speak to me like that. So I let him have it with both barrels, really. I said, I can really tell you what your sister really thought about you, but I don't upset you too much. Yes. Well, my advice to you, if you ever come across this, is take charge and don't take shit out of people, because, where are the people? Where are the true friends in a crisis? They disappear, don't they, like a fart in the wind. The real good ones stand next to you, they stand by you in life, and they'll go through thick and thin with you. But it's funny, isn't it? We get sort of 5-minute heroes. They're there and they're gone the slightest sign of any sort of commitment that they're going to have to take time out to go and show respect in it. Well, they disrespected my mother 20 odd years ago when she tried to get in touch with them. So they can go to hell, as far as I'm concerned. But I'd be interested to know if you write a little note under my video about your experiences with in-laws, but they're nothing to me. In that respect, they happen to be my aunties and uncles, and the dearest auntie that my mother had an association with, my mother's sister, was wonderful, and she died, sadly. It's funny how the good die young, isn't it? Well, been a long tiring day. I should love you and leave you, but don't let anybody take control, especially those who have not had any interest in any aspect of your life for the last 25, 30 years, and all of a sudden think that you can't live without them or their money. Not interested in them, and they should stay north of the border as far as I'm concerned, and maybe join the Scottish National Party. They're the ones who want to stay in Europe, after all. I think we should build that Hadrian's Wall even higher. What are your thoughts about people like this? Catch you tomorrow, folks. Toodle bit.